There is a conversation happening in retirement homes, hospital corridors, and quiet living rooms across America that most men never hear until it is too late. It is the whispered confessions of 70 and 80-year-old men sharing the same painful truths about the choices they made and the opportunities they missed when they still had time to change course. What strikes me most about these conversations is not the diversity of regrets, but how remarkably similar they are. Whether talking to a retired CEO or a former factory worker, a grandfather in Texas or a widower in Maine, the same five themes emerge with devastating consistency. These men are not asking for sympathy. They are offering warnings to those who still have runway left. I have spent the last year documenting these conversations, and what I discovered will either inspire you to make immediate changes or haunt you with the weight of wasted time. The choice is entirely yours. But I promise you this much. The fifth regret I will share at the end of this video is so easily preventable that you could fix it with a single phone call tonight. Yet it destroys more families than any other mistake on this list. Hit subscribe now, because your 70-year-old self is counting on you to hear this message while you still have the power to act on it. Number 1. I let family relationships break and never repaired them. The most devastating regret is not about money lost or opportunities missed. It is about the silence that grows between family members until it becomes a permanent wall. This regret sits heaviest on the hearts of older men because, unlike health problems or financial setbacks, broken relationships are entirely within our control to fix. Yet pride and stubbornness keep us trapped in unnecessary isolation. Frank, 76 years old, has not spoken to his youngest son in 8 years. It started with a disagreement about politics that escalated into personal attacks, then hardened into stubborn silence. I kept waiting for him to call and apologize first. Frank told me, his voice barely above a whisper. Meanwhile, I missed my granddaughter learning to walk, her first words, her starting school. I chose being right over being a grandfather, and now I do not know how to find my way back. The psychology behind this regret runs deep in masculine conditioning. Men are taught to stand firm, never back down, and win every argument. We approach family conflict like a competition where someone must emerge victorious. But family relationships are not battles to be won. They are connections to be preserved. When we treat our children, siblings, or spouses like opponents instead of people we love, everyone loses. The cruel mathematics of this regret become clear with time. Your pride might feel justified today, but it provides cold comfort when you are eating dinner alone at 75. Being right about an argument from 5 years ago means nothing when you realize you have missed 5 years of birthdays, holidays, and ordinary moments that could have been filled with laughter instead of silence. Here is how you prevent this regret from becoming your story. First, implement the 24-hour rule. Never let a family argument go unresolved for more than 1 day. Address conflicts quickly before pride has time to build walls that become harder to tear down with each passing month. Second, use this simple script that works in almost every situation. I miss having you in my life, and I want us to be okay with each other. You do not have to admit fault. You do not have to rehash who said what. You just have to prioritize the relationship over your ego. These words have the power to heal wounds that have festered for years. Third, if calling feels too difficult, write a letter. Sometimes it is easier to find the right words when you can think them through carefully. Focus on what you want moving forward, not who was right about what happened in the past. Express specific things you miss about the relationship and your hope for rebuilding it. Remember this truth that hits men hardest in their later years. You can be right and still be alone. You can win the argument and still lose the relationship. At 70, men do not remember who won the fights. They remember who was there for the moments that mattered most. But broken relationships often stem from a deeper issue, one that prevents men from connecting authentically with the people they love most. Number 2, I never learned to say what I really felt. The words "I love you," "I am proud of you," and I forgive you collect like dust in the hearts of older men. Unexpressed emotions that grow heavier with each passing year. This regret strikes at the foundation of every meaningful relationship. From marriages that grew distant through emotional silence to children who spent decades wondering if their fathers truly cared about them. Drop the number 2 in the comments if you have ever swallowed words that needed to be spoken, because this pattern affects nearly every man who reaches 70. Yet it stems from lessons learned so early in life that most of us do not even remember accepting them as truth. William, 73 years old, carried a conversation in his heart for 40 years that never made it to his lips. When his father died suddenly of a heart attack, William realized he had never once told the man how much he admired his work ethic, respected his sacrifices, or appreciated the quiet ways he showed love through action rather than words. I thought working beside him in silence was enough, William told me, his voice breaking. I thought he knew how I felt because I showed up every day. But people need to hear the words, not just see the actions. This regret stems from cultural conditioning that runs generations deep. Boys learn early that emotional expression equals vulnerability, and vulnerability equals weakness. We internalize messages like big boys do not cry and real men do not need to talk about feelings until we genuinely believe that strong men handle emotions privately rather than sharing them openly with the people who matter most. The tragedy is not that men do not feel deeply. It is that we never develop the vocabulary to express what we feel. We assume our actions speak for us, that providing and protecting communicates love more effectively than words ever could. But the people in our lives need both the actions and the words. They need to hear their values spoken out loud, not just demonstrated through behavior. Here is how you begin healing this regret while relationships still have room to grow. Start with one person and one specific emotion. Write your wife a note this week that goes beyond, I love you, to something detailed, like I love how you still laugh at my terrible jokes after 30 years of marriage, and how you make our house feel like home just by being in it. Practice saying I am proud of you to your adult children when they accomplish anything worth celebrating. These 3 words carry healing power that can repair years of emotional distance in a single moment. Call a friend you have been thinking about and tell them exactly that. I have been thinking about you and wanted you to know you matter to me. If face-to-face conversations feel too vulnerable initially, start with letters or text messages where you can carefully choose your words. The beautiful truth about emotional expression is that it creates safety for others to be emotionally honest as well. When you model vulnerability as strength rather than weakness, you give permission for deeper connections that enrich every relationship in your life. But emotional silence often contributes to another regret that affects how we spend our time and energy throughout our working years. Number 3, I work too hard and miss the life happening around me. The difference between being a provider and being present becomes devastatingly clear to men in their 70s. When the corner office feels empty and the dinner table at home has grown quiet in ways that no promotion could ever fix. This regret encompasses not just missed family moments, but the entire texture of daily life that slipped by while we were focused on the next deadline, the next client crisis, the next business emergency that seemed urgent then but means nothing now. Charles, 74 years old, built a successful accounting firm that provided generously for his family. He sent 3 children to college debt-free and accumulated significant wealth for retirement. By every external measure, he succeeded brilliantly. But when I asked about his biggest regret, his answer cut straight to the heart. I optimized for the wrong metrics entirely. I counted every dollar that came in, but missed counting the moments that actually mattered to the people I was working so hard to support. He told me about his daughter's piano recital when she was 9 years old. She had practiced for months, her face lighting up every time she mentioned the upcoming performance. But a client crisis pulled him to the office that evening, and he missed her recital entirely. She never invited me to another performance after that. Charles said quietly, I taught her through my absence that work would always come first, and she learned that lesson perfectly. This regret runs deeper than simple time management. Men are conditioned to measure worth by productivity rather than presence. We internalize the belief that love is demonstrated through provision, creating a devastating trap where we sacrifice the relationships we are working to support. The prevention strategy starts with recognizing that your family needs your attention more than your advancement. When you are home, be fully home, phone face down, laptop closed, mind engaged in their world rather than work concerns. Schedule family time with the same discipline you apply to business meetings. Put your child's soccer game on your calendar and defend that commitment as fiercely as you would your most important client relationship. Create daily connection rituals. A 15-minute walk with your spouse after dinner, a weekly phone call to each adult child, bedtime stories with grandchildren when they visit. These small, consistent connections matter more than grand gestures that happen sporadically. Practice saying no to low-value work commitments that steal time from high-value relationship opportunities. Every yes to unnecessary overtime becomes a no to irreplaceable moments with the people who make life worth living. Remember this truth that hits men hardest in later years. No man on his deathbed wishes he had attended one more meeting, but many would trade everything for one more ordinary evening at home, sharing stories with the people they love most. But even men who balance work and family well often struggle with another regret about the experiences and adventures they never allowed themselves to pursue. Number 4, I saved for experiences I never allowed myself to have. The travel brochures yellowed with age, the vacation fund that grew larger while the body grew weaker, and the bucket list that became a monument to perpetual postponement. This regret haunts men who spent decades accumulating money for adventures they never allowed themselves to take, trading irreplaceable experiences for the false security of growing savings accounts that ultimately cannot buy back lost time. Hit that notification bell if this resonates with you, because the mathematics of this regret are particularly cruel. A $5,000 trip taken at 60 creates memories that appreciate in value for the rest of your life, while that same money sitting untouched in a savings account until 70 might buy a nicer assisted living facility, but cannot buy back the sunset over the Grand Canyon or the conversation with your wife while walking through a foreign city. Kenneth, 78 years old, has a detailed itinerary for a 3-week tour of European battlefields he planned to take with his army buddies. He saved for 15 years for this trip, accumulating over $30,000 specifically for travel. Today, 2 of his 3 friends have passed away. He uses a walker, and flying has become too risky due to heart problems. The money is still there, he told me with tears in his eyes, but the bodies and the friendships that could have enjoyed it are gone. I was so careful about having enough money that I forgot to be careful about having enough time. This regret stems from a scarcity mindset that treats experiences as luxuries earned only after every financial box is checked. We tell ourselves we will travel when the mortgage is paid off, when the kids finish college, when we have 6 months of expenses saved, when work finally slows down, but work never slows down the way we expect it to, and our bodies slow down faster than we want them to. Here is your action plan starting today. First, implement the 1 meaningful experience per year rule, even if it starts modestly. Book a long weekend at a national park you can drive to. Take that cooking class you have discussed for years, or visit the city where you grew up and share your childhood stories with your spouse. Second, set up a separate experience fund and automate contributions to it. Even $50 per month becomes $600 per year, enough for several small adventures or one significant journey. Third, book the experience first, then figure out how to afford it, rather than waiting until you can afford it perfectly. This reverses the psychology that keeps you stuck in perpetual preparation mode. Your future self will thank you for the memories you create while your body can fully enjoy them, not for the extra money you save by staying home. Sometimes our reluctance to spend money on experiences reflects a deeper reluctance to invest in our own well-being, particularly when it comes to the foundation that supports everything else in life. Number 5, I ignored my health until crisis forced my attention. Here is the regret I promised would shock you with how easily preventable it is, yet how devastatingly it impacts everything else in a man's life. Your 60-year-old body is keeping a detailed record of every late night, every skipped meal, every month you avoided the doctor, and every year you promised to start exercising when things settle down. This regret transforms from a personal health issue into a family crisis that affects everyone you love most. What makes this regret so tragic is the illusion of invincibility that men carry well into their 60s. We convince ourselves that we are different, that health problems happen to other people, that we can always address issues later when we have more time. But health crises do not wait for convenient timing, and the body you neglect at 60 becomes the limitation that defines your 70s and 80s. Arthur, 79 years old, ignored chest tightness and shortness of breath for 3 years, attributing them to stress and normal aging. He kept promising his wife he would see a doctor after the busy season at work and when things calmed down. That promise became meaningless when he collapsed with a massive heart attack at 71. I spent 8 years as an invalid instead of 8 years as an active grandfather. He told me from his wheelchair, "My stubbornness did not just hurt me. It robbed my family of the man they needed me to be." The psychology behind health neglect runs deep in masculine culture. Men are taught to be tough, to push through pain, to view their bodies as machines that should run indefinitely without maintenance. We equate doctor visits with weakness and ignore symptoms that would send us running to a mechanic if they appeared in our cars. Your health rescue plan begins with one phone call. Schedule a complete physical exam within the next 7 days, not next month when your schedule clears up. But this week, many serious conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, and heart disease are completely manageable when caught early, but devastating when ignored. Second, commit to 30 minutes of walking every single day, not running or intense workouts, but a sustainable daily walk that improves cardiovascular health, mental clarity, and energy levels more than any supplement. Third, make one small dietary improvement each month. Replace one sugary drink with water. Add vegetables to 3 meals per week, or reduce alcohol by 1 drink weekly. Fourth, prioritize sleep like you prioritize important meetings. 7 hours per night is not negotiable. Your brain repairs itself during sleep, and chronic sleep deprivation accelerates aging in ways that cannot be reversed. Ring that notification bell if you commit to calling your doctor this week, because your health is the foundation that supports every other aspect of your life. Without it, the relationships you build, the experiences you plan, and the legacy you want to leave become impossible to enjoy fully. Final thought. The conversations I have had with hundreds of men in their 70s and 80s have taught me something profound about human nature. We are remarkably consistent in our regrets, which means we are also remarkably predictable in our capacity to prevent them. The 5 regrets I have shared are not inevitable consequences of aging. They are choices that can be changed starting today. What gives me hope is how interconnected these regrets are. When you prioritize family relationships, you naturally express emotions more freely. When you invest in experiences, you create opportunities for deeper connections. When you take care of your health, you have the energy to be present for the people and activities that matter most. These changes reinforce each other, creating an upward spiral of fulfillment that compounds over time. The men who reach their 70s without these regrets share one common characteristic. They made small, consistent choices that honored their values over their fears. They chose vulnerability over invincibility, presence over productivity, experience over accumulation, relationships over being right, and prevention over neglect. Your 70-year-old self is not some distant stranger. He is the inevitable result of the choices you make starting today. Every conversation you have tonight, every phone call you make this week, every appointment you schedule, every small risk you take is a gift to that future version of yourself. Before you close this video, I need you to make 3 commitments. First, Subscribe to this channel and ring that notification bell, because the wisdom shared here could transform your remaining decades. Second, choose one regret that resonated most deeply and take one concrete action within the next 48 hours. Third, share this video with another man who needs to hear this message, because we become stronger when we grow together. In the comments below, tell me which regret hit closest to home and what you are going to do about it. I read every comment and will reply with personalized guidance. Thank you for investing this time in your future self. The conversation we just had could be the turning point that ensures your 70s are filled with satisfaction rather than regret. The choice, as always, is entirely yours.